Since India currently lacks technological sovereignty, how would we cope if the US cuts off access to platforms like Google, Meta, WhatsApp, YouTube, and X? Do we have any real alternatives? Isn't now the time to invest in and develop our own technology? How should we plan and execute such an initiative to be ready for the challenging times ahead? That's a question by Animation. There's another question which is along the same lines. This is by C Joy Joes. I'm a long-term follower of you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Why is India not acting like China and Russia? We know that our internet and necessary functionalities are functioning on the terms of the West, or from the support of the West, from the West, especially the US. The most important factor is the operating system. The Chinese have their own operating system, Harmony OS, which is not based on Linux. It's an entirely mm, original OS. Yeah. Russia has their own internal autonomous functioning internet, even if the West cuts them off entirely. India doesn't have it. China has the great firewall of China. Isn't this a leverage to the West which can be used against us? We aren't even supporting alternatives. Even our government communications are happening via WhatsApp. What if they decide to pull all the Microsoft tactics, like, deny Microsoft services and so on? Will the government, even the basic panchayat functionalities, get doomed? Will we have to go back to using telegrams? I say this to many: at least don't try to purchase everything from a single monopolistic giant like Meta. At least try to shift our main messenger app, which is WhatsApp, to Telegram. Keep it in mind that Meta is not taking proper action against anti India contents, but they swiftly act and impose strong action against other silly matters. Rectifying these issues or filling the gap in our true autonomy will give us a lot of geopolitical advantages. What do I think? Please include it in your live session. I am including it. It's very important. What you're saying is very, very true. It's very important. I think India is about 2 to 3 years before this sort of thing may happen. Maybe even sooner than that. India needs to have its own operating systems. India needs to be able to manufacture its own PCs and laptops. India needs to have its own apps. India needs to have its own social media platforms. Social media is important. I think it's a vital necessity today in today's world. All Indians are connected today. We understand Indians from all parts of India because of social media. If social media services are denied to India, then Indians will once again be completely isolated and apart from each other. Right? Uh, so we need to have our own operating systems. We need to have our own internally manufactured PCs, laptops, whatever, phones. We need to have our own indigenous mobile operating system, our own laptop operating systems, which are independent of anything from the West. Yes, we need to have our own internet. Even if the rest of the world is cut off, we need to be able to communicate with each other. We need to have our own social media platform, at least one. We don't need Meta and Twitter and this and that and everything. At least one social media platform has to be there. Now the question is, who does this? Who does this? Is the government supposed to create this, or are Indian private companies supposed to do this? I mean, if you look at the US, all these services that we use, whether it is Meta or Google, WhatsApp, whatever, these are all private companies that have created these products. So ideally, you would want Indian private companies to create world-class products. We have all these IT services companies that offer IT services to the West. Why can't they come up with this? We have the best IT brains in the world. Millions, tens, hundreds of millions of these. So why it's obviously going to be easy for an Indian company, if it decides to create services, platforms, apps, whatever, operating systems. It'll be easy. But they simply don't care. They don't want to do it because they want to keep on playing the game of labor arbitrage with the West. And that's how they have made money thus far. But they're going to be hit very badly now. First of all, the advent of AI is going to hit everything, all the IT services in India. And secondly, Trump may take some action against Indian IT companies. And Indian IT services exports to the US. It may happen pretty soon. So I think it's a question of time, maybe 2-3 years, possibly, before, maybe even sooner, before this sort of scenario happens. So if the Indian IT companies aren't willing to do this, maybe the Indian government needs to take action. What did Animesh say? Once again, same thing, technological sovereignty. Yes, what happens if the US cuts off access to these platforms? Well, we are left adrift. Right, that's what happens. So obviously, I completely agree with what Joy Jose is saying. This needs to be taken up on a war footing. India needs to have its own operating systems. Indian government servants need to immediately stop using Gmail, using WhatsApp. We need to have our own secure communications apps, our own email services. Everything should be indigenized, because the world may very soon decouple and all these services that you're taking for granted may disappear. So very important points are being raised over here, and I completely agree with these points.